Hey, release party, everyone. Welcome this time of the year, the first this year. Yeah, everyone go into hype mode, please. So welcome, everyone. We are streaming from Europe and Khalid also from the US. Would be nice if you also let us know from where you're tuning in. And since we have a lot of features, let's not waste any more time here. So some basic things. If you have any questions, please let us know in the chat and we will try to address them. Doesn't have to be related to the release. We're also happy to answer any other questions. And since this question always pops up, yes, the stream is recorded effectively immediately. So you can go back even, you can stop anytime you want. But anyway, it would be nice to have you around, of course. And yeah, with that, let's dive in. And from my agenda, I can see that I'm the first one. So no one has spoken until now, and I just continue. I will start with some C# language features, and let me start with lookups. So this is quite funny because dealing with collections and unnecessary lookups was always a good example for SSR patterns, which ReSharper and Rider support for a while already. But as you can see here, Rider and ReSharper will now hint you that this contains key is actually unnecessary. So we can go here or go here and remove the redundant contains key, and it will just rewrite our code to make it more effective, and so that we don't have such a lot of lookups. The same goes for that. So we don't need to check if the key is contained. We can just simplify this with try add. The same goes with the index assignment. Another one are null check syntax styles. So let's go here. In the options, if you scroll all the way down, you can see now there's a new entry for patterns, and you can define which way of checking for null you prefer. So this was the first version that they introduced. I think many people didn't really like it because it looks odd, yeah, at least for me. So now we also have the default for not null pattern. And if we go to, let's see, null checking, no, that's the wrong one. Pattern matching, this one here. And we have one example right here. You can see this is highlighted now with a hint, and we can go and simply say, okay, switch to the preferred code style. I should say this every time actually, but you can also go to the right and fix it for the whole solution. Then we also have actual null checking. So let's go back here. This also lives in the options. So let's go back here for a moment. And maybe you've seen this option page already, but it contains all the different ways for checking for null. And the order of how these items are ordered is basically what ReSharper tries to apply, depending on what the current target framework supports and the compiler or the .NET SDK. So what's new is this one. Argument null exception now has a static method throw if null. And let's just move this up here a little. And now if I go here, and it couldn't be several parameters that we want to check for null, we can just alt enter and then say check parameter for null, and it will add this null check for us. Let's head over to pattern matching again, because for pattern matching we also have some more here, which was introduced by our awesome Sasha Schwedhoff. And now if we check a value, for instance, here, if the employee has project which an estimation low grade of 5 and project estimation high smaller than 20, then you can see that we have a bit of repetition here. And that was always a bit of a selling point for pattern matching in my eyes, because you get rid of all this repetition from all the syntax that we had previously. So now you can see, since we duplicated some members here basically, or some access paths, We also have a hint here, and we can extract a common property pattern. So if I choose to merge this, then you can see we only say project estimation once, and then this is all merged into a single pattern, so to say. Now I have a little quiz. My friends, you can already unmute. What do you think is the precedence here? Is it value is not 0 or 1, or is it not 0 or 1? I was also wrong, so yeah.
Can I try? Because this, I mean, C# is not yet like JavaScript, although this one feels a bit like JavaScript. So I'm going to go with precedence of not null or not 0, and then the or 1 as the second approach.
So I'm going to jump in there then and say the opposite of Martin, just in case he's wrong, I can be right.
Yeah, unfortunately, Martin is right. So this is actually, yeah, I mean, I would have guessed wrong as well. This is a hard to spot error, I think. But you can see now, once I uncommented that, you can see this one is marked as, let's see, pattern is redundant. So this doesn't have any meaningful effect because the first one already, overloads that basically. So yeah, this is another one that we added. Next are list patterns, and thanks both of you for your input. List patterns. Even in the last release, we already had this one. So merge into pattern for list patterns like this, where we check that the first argument is -- help and the second will just be captured. But now we also added some like this, for instance. So if arg's length is 0, we can convert that into a list pattern, which is basically just, empty array, or I don't know how you would call this one here. This also works with other lengths than 0. So let's try this one. Convert into list pattern. And this is funny, I was also already trying this. So what is the magic number? Like 7 should also work, and it looks funny here. And of course I tried this with int max, so to say. But I think the magic number is like 8. Yeah. So from 8 you cannot convert into list pattern anymore when checking for length. Next one is empty regions. Yeah. So if anyone is still using regions, I don't know. At least I'm not. Although I was a big fan while there was still a way to reorder to automatically reorder members and group them by interfaces and stuff. But anyway, if you were using regions or still using regions and you want to get rid of empty regions throughout your solution, this is the way to go, and just removing that empty region. And of course, regions that still have something, they are not removed. And the last one, and then I think Martin takes over, is Lambda return types. Also quite interesting. I replicated some example from I don't even know how you call this, builder setup in Azure Functions. And what I usually had was to say, okay, this is setting up the cloud table client, something like this. But yeah, it's a comment gets comments do get outdated at some point. What's possibly a good alternative is to go here to our function and say, I want to insert the return type specification. So something like this. And now you can see this one is added here. Probably I would reformat it a little bit. So something like this. And then I can immediately see what this function is returning without scanning the whole body. Yeah. And again, this can be applied to the whole solution. Okay, next up, Martin, with code cleanup, I see. Are you ready?
Yeah, code cleanup. I'm totally ready. So let's put on my screen. There.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
There we go. So yeah, in ReSharper, we've, as with any version, we try to make the code formatting engine a lot better than it was in previous versions. So what you will see here on my screen is a badly formatted piece of code. So you will see that in here, there's lots of spaces. There's more spaces and tabs mixed. I could even add new lines and so on. And as you may know, there's a handy shortcut in ReSharper and Rider as well, where you can do a Control-Alt-Enter, and it reformats the entire file. Now, if you look at the codes that I had previously, you will see that all of that has been updated. But anything that I have in a preprocessor branch is not being reformatted. So you will see that the formatting here is still very, very messed up. So what you can do is you can open the settings in ReSharper. And instead of doing the default that we have, you can actually either edit the default or create a new one. So I'm just going to create a new one here. And what you can do is for C#, you can now say, look, I want to reformat inactive preprocessor branches as well, which is quite nice. Because if you do this and you set this one as the default as well, if I now format my code, let's just run the entire thing. I'm optimizing everything in my project, so let's cancel that for a second and just do it for this file. You will see that now, Control-Alt-Enter. Should not have canceled that, but as you will imagine, this one will also update everything that I have in that preprocessor branch there. Which is a very tiny addition, but also a very useful addition, especially if you make lots of changes and you do code formatting. This one will actually take into account all of those preprocessor branches as well. So that's really nice. And that's, yeah, pretty much it. Again, small update, but also a big update. And I think you will enjoy this one. So the next thing we have, we're just going to switch gears a little bit and dive from code into another tool. I'm going to switch to my other machine, and my other machine is a Mac. And on my Mac, you will see .trace. Woohoo, finally. Our profiler is now available on Mac. It's available on Linux, and you can try it out, give it a go, and profile all of your applications if you want to. So you will see that the UI for .trace is very, very similar to the UI that we have on Windows. And that is all thanks to the Avalonia folks who have made a fantastic cross-platform XAML-based UI framework. So we're actually using that one to bring .trace to Linux and to macOS X as well. If you're new to .trace, the way it works is you can always create a new run configuration, much like you would do in some of our other tools as well. In that run configuration, you can decide what you want to profile. So that can be a standalone application, which is essentially any executable that you may be able to run on your Mac. You can profile a .NET Core application. That is essentially if you want to look at any DLL that you have containing an ASP.NET application, for example. You can do Mono and you can do Unity. Next thing you do once you have a run configuration is you also select the profiling type. That's also probably very interesting. We have a couple of profiling types. There's timeline, there's sampling, and there's tracing. And on macOS X, line by line is currently still disabled. What those do is they essentially vary in detail that they collect while profiling. So timeline will essentially be the same as sampling, but it will also combine it with a lot of other data that it can gather from the .NET runtime and your operating system. So depending on the OS, you will see different data there. Sampling is that minus all of those useful things, and tracing is really to get accurate measurements of the number of calls to a method, but not the timing. So sampling will be better for timings. Tracing will be better if you really need the number of calls made to a specific method. Now, I am going to profile one of the applications that I have here. I have a Sudoku solver, so I'm just going to launch this one using timeline profiling and start. And you will see that this launches an application, and in the profiler controller, you will see the CPU usage, memory usage, and so on. And at some point, my application will finish solving this Sudoku, which has now happened, and it asks me to press enter to exit. So I'm just going to do that. What will happen is I can either manually grab a snapshot or just press enter, close the application, and have .trace figure out what the snapshot should look like. So let's close this one. The .trace timeline viewer will open. It takes a while to process everything, and then you will see the results of what we have there. I think Matt's laptop just crashed. That's awesome. So in .trace, in the timeline viewer, you will see the timeline of the execution of your entire application. Now, this Sudoku solver is not that interesting. but this is a timeline of all the threads that have been running through my application, what has happened, and so on. You can see a number of GC weights, so there's a little bit of garbage collection weights introduced. I can look at user code, just-in-time codes, I can filter by garbage collection, and so on. And really everything in UI here is a filter. So if I select just garbage collection, for example, I'm filtering. And if I then select one method, so let's say this copy cells one here, and filter to that one, you will see that the entire view will start filtering to that. And I think my laptop is also crashing for some reason. No, it's not. Again, everything is filters. So if you select blocking, for example, it will actually filter to that one and so on. No longer interested, you can just clear this and be good with it. Maybe also an interesting one is that I waited quite long to close my application. So 22% of the time in my running application is actually spent in reading the console, which is probably not something you want. Really nice feature, and this has been in .trace for a long time, but I keep reminding folks that this is there. You can actually say, look, exclude this methods, act like this method does not exist, has not been called, and so on. And all of the results will be optimized and recalculated based on not having that specific quality. And so all of my waiting at the end of the running application is now no longer present. Maybe a couple of other things that I want to show. I have some snapshots. So every profiling snapshot you collect is stored in .trace as well. I think I have a web application in there, this one. So let's open that one in the viewer. Again, you will see this timeline with everything that has been going on. You will see many more threads than in the previous example here. What's also nice is that in the view method here, you're also able to look at incoming HTTP requests. So for example, if you have a web application, .trace will collect all of the requests that have been processed. And you can essentially filter everything down to what happens in this type of call, for example. So again, everything is a filter, but having these for HTTP requests is quite useful. It is still in beta, so it's not there yet, but it's already very functional to work with and so on. Now, if at some point you are not sure that you can do everything with .trace on Mac, you can still make use of, so first of all, the command line tools, if you want to profile on Linux or on a server or whatever. The other thing is that also on Mac, but also on Windows, you can actually open snapshots from other operating systems. So I actually have a nice snapshot here profiling Visual Studio on my Windows machine, and I can investigate this one on my Mac here. It takes a lot longer to load because it's obviously a bigger snapshot, but you will see quite a few things have been happening here. I can look at the UI freezes, for example, see what's going on there in the timeline, and then look at what is going on at runtime during that thing. So again, I can figure out what the hotspots are and maybe start optimizing the codes of the application that I have here. So that's pretty much it for .trace. Do give it a try. It's quite exciting, and I'm really happy that we now finally have a UI on Mac OS X as well. Yeah, go for it. And I'm going to switch here.
Yeah, you have a pretty fast localhost HTTP requests, I saw.
Absolutely. Localhost is the best host, man.
All right. Thanks, Martin. Next is Rachel, I think. Let me see, Rachel, where's your screen? I don't see it. I think it's not shared yet. Welcome back, Matt.
Yeah, that was great timing.
I shared it before, and then I think it got unshared. Oh, Matt's back. All right.
I just fell off the edge of the world for a bit.
Climbed up again?
I think we'll see. We'll see when it comes to me showing some demos. This could go horribly wrong still. It's, flip a coin.
Were you pushed off the border of the world by cat? I saw cats push things off the world.
Well, I think my laptop just kind of couldn't be bothered anymore, which is reasonable. It's a Monday, it's like, why?
Okay, Rachel, can I add you?
Okay, so mine. Yeah. Do you want to add to the stream?
Okay. It's there.
Ah, there we go.
Maybe zoom the font a little bit.
Alrighty. Yeah, well.
Martin, in a second.
How about we'll zoom the whole IDE? Yeah, so instead of just doing the font, I'll do like the whole IDE. So A couple ways to do this. You could do your good old shift, or you could go to your view menu, and then under appearance, you get the IDE Zoom. And this will take the toolbars along with the text in the editor to whatever Zoom that you need it. Okay. There was a small delay, as does happen with the video. And for a second, I thought, what was happening? So there is the old IDE's new update with the IDE Zoom. And you might want to just switch to the whole new IDE. So I have all the cool UI stuff here. So what I'll do is, in this case, I'll just shift, but you could go to File and Settings and then dig in there. Right under, I think, Appearance is the new UI. But I just come in here and do New UI, and it's going to pop up and give me the option to be able to switch over as soon as it goes through. And here we go. Again, a little bit slow every time I get on StreamYard or any kind of streaming. So here's the option to enable the new UI. If I go ahead and take that, it's going to ask me if I restart. I'm going to say yes and give it a second or two or 10 because of, again, the whole thing with the video. And when it comes back, then we'll be able to see a nice new UI. Yeah.
Your
so
screen
that
share
might take
also
a while.
disappeared for some. Rachel, your screen share also disappeared for some reason. Mm-hmm. Are you changing themes? Interesting.
Not necessarily, but I did just switch to the new UI, so maybe that cut that off. But I did have the entire screen shared, so that's a little weird.
No worries. I see it.
Okay, so add this back to our
incoming.
Okay.
Incoming. Yeah, it's back. Nice background.
Okay, so Matt, is it just me, or is there something flickering?
It's flickering.
It's not flickering.
I would go full screen
screen
as soon as possible.
So, but it's flickering on my other laptop that I'm watching YouTube by, and I don't know what to do about that. That's a little awkward. Should I just try switching screens here for a second?
Oh, no, it's gone.
Well, that was last year's vacation that was flashing.
Oh, it's
all
back.
over. Is it gone for everybody?
No. Before, when you moved, it was gone. The welcome screen to the right a bit.
Okay.
And now screen share is gone again.
Yeah, I stopped it. I thought maybe I'll just try again.
Let's try again. Oh, sorry. I really like.
My screen keeps flashing.
What?
Let's see.
I know that's Matt. Sorry, that was also added.
Okay, is it better? No, it's back to this again.
Yeah, I wonder if it's Windows snap to regions. Like when you move the window more to the right, it like the black. Yeah, you can see the blackness there. So yeah, it's. Oh. So if you just move it a little to your right, does that flashing go away? Yeah.
My right.
Nope.
You're right. Nope.
No. Well, it's
oh,
constant.
This is bizarre.
Oh, I think your graphics card's about to explode. You should stop mining Bitcoin, Rachel. Not during webinars, at least.
Yeah, you know, let's. I do have.
So I think you can just give it a go. Maybe having Rider full screen will solve everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think having Rider solves a lot of things.
All right, let's try that. There.
Yes.
All right, let's try to put this
flicker.
back on. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So now we're in this new UI. Oh no, it had to flip over for a second. So now somebody has to disconnect. Their internet has to go out. Matt, maybe. So let's see. I'll pick back up on here again. So change to the new UI. now that I have the new UI up, nice, without the nice. So once I'm in here, you can do all the same stuff you did before. A few things you might want to note once you switch over for the first time to the new UI. If you come over right tool window, there's a little meet the new UI icon. And I could click on that and it pops out a cool little side panel in which I can make some changes here. So I could pick out a different theme, or I could, it's clean, but I could even make it a little bit more smaller and compact. So I could set it here. I could also set it in settings if I want to. So I could just come in here and click around and play and see how I like it. So there's compact. So you see it just kind of pushes everything out of the way a little bit, or clean, which is still fairly compact, and compact seems even compacter, if you will. So I could come in here and just kind of pop around with this. At any time, I could do my shift new UI and go back to the old one if I want. At this point, I could just click finish setup and it just takes it. Now I have my new UI. Again, I could still go into the settings and some things that I might want to do is some connectivity and some weird sounds coming through, or no, for other people?
A bit.
Yeah, a little
Okay.
bit.
Boy, today is like plagued by the internet day. Okay, anyway, so with our new UI, one of the things that we could do, I guess somebody's going to yell if you all can't see or hear anything. I'll just keep going. As you see the new nice tool windows over here, I can pop them up at any time that I want, and I could just drag and drop any of them to any order that I like. If I use my mouse, I could come here and hit the little ellipsis and pick out even more tool windows that I want. And I can even tell Rider to keep all of my settings. So I could drag and drop here. I could also right click and do a move to and pick exactly where I want to orient this window. So maybe right or left, bottom, top, exactly how I want it to be. So I could come in here and click around, right click, customize all of the tool windows exactly how I want to do. Once I've done that, then I could go ahead and do a couple other things, such as if I am working in various, and to the end, you know, there's always a bit of cutoff. Well, we have a little drop down, and now you could actually see the hidden tabs, which this was a little annoying before. You would get to the end, and you had to use one of the other techniques maybe to show all the files, or another way to navigate. And here you just have a cute little drop down. If you happen to be hanging around that area with the mouse, you could quickly drop it down and you see all of the stuff that's open. So you could, or not has been opened, that you can move to or close. When we get back to, I guess Khalid in his turn can also mention in the Solution Explorer, if you're on macOS, it does have some project tabs that you can see, which is a nice new little UI feature. And actually, after the stuff with the perf tuning and whatnot, Mac actually looks pretty good. So, yeah, I know, unexpected. No, I'm not going to switch back over already, but it does look kind of cool. So, in addition with those nice UI changes, another one, we've changed this a few times in the last few releases. But up here in our run widget. So we have changed it a little bit, and just to compare to the most recent, got the little scrape from our website before with the, if you did a preview of the new UI, this is kind of highlighted and blue, and it did kind of stick out a little bit more out of the rest of the toolbar. And now it's just kind of flush and feels more at home there. It's not kind of sticking out at you. Everybody's going to use this at some point anyway, either with your shortcut keys or if you're mousing up here, doesn't matter. Either way, you do get your different configurations to work with, solution configurations all the way here over at the left, and then any of your edit configurations for your project, and then run configurations that you can edit in your run and debug tool windows or tool buttons. So we get those nice redesigned run widget, very optimized and pretty nice and sleek, I think. Along with those UI changes comes a few other cool ones. Not that you're necessarily going to see anything in here, but when you do Shift, it's now ML powered. So if I come in here and look for something here in the classes project or whatever, it is definitely all just running by magic ML behind the scenes that everybody's doing nowadays. All right. So it should make everything more optimized and better and easier to find as you need to. So again, it's just behind the scenes, but it's nice to know that our search Shift search everywhere is ML powered. The only real coding thing I have to show is for TypeScript. We did pull over a few features from WebStorm, and there were some updated view features. And one of the things was with TypeScript, if you're working in here with template literals or things like that, if I come in here and do like $, and a bracket, it's going to pick up with some IntelliSense. Or it doesn't when I do it, and then I could pick out that auto-completed word. Also in TypeScript as well. So for some of the web features. So I hope everybody likes the new UI. I really do. And I realize when something new comes out like this, a new UI, it's very who moved my cheese for a lot of people. And it could be jarring because it's new and everything is seemingly in a different place. But the nice thing to know is we didn't take away anything. It's all just neatly tucked into more efficient places. So definitely, if you haven't had a chance to try the new UI yet, Shift, new UI, go in there and set it. You can always set it back and see how you like it. And it's especially good if you use the keyboard mostly. There's really no reason if you're a heavy keyboard person not to try it out. It's very slick. So lots of cool new UI stuff in here. And whoever's next, take it away.
I think we also added a new theme, which is Rider Night. So before it was dark, and at first when you switch to the new UI, I think it will pick Rider Night automatically. I'm also such a person who moved my cheese stuff, but meanwhile I really love the Rider Night theme. Next is Martin, I think. Martin and Khalid probably.
By the way, Khalid, good joke in the chat saying that it's a missed chance to call it Knight Rider.
Yeah, they should have consulted me, right? I'm just saying.
Yeah, best theme tune of the 80s, though.
Is that trademark?
You do remember the 80s, don't you, kids?
Yeah.
I was just born, Matt. I was just born, buddy.
I'm having a terrible time. Don't make it worse.
All right,
Martin, you do duet with Khalid for the next one.
Let's switch to Git and then hand it over to Khalid, I think.
Which screen do you want to be shared?
I'll do this one. No worries.
Okay.
All right. Let's talk Git a little bit. There's a lot of Git. Well, not a lot of changes in the Git workflow in Rider, but still a couple of really nice things. So first of all, what I did is in this project, which is owned by Khalid, by the way, I added a new file called khalid.txt, which I think is a very, very useful addition to this specific project. And what I can do is I can create a new branch. And what you will see that is new in Rider is that branches now also autocomplete if you have prefixes. So what I typically do is put all my code into a specific prefix in my branch. So if I type my name, I will see a preview that now says, okay, Martin and this is Khalid ASCII. All right, there we go. And what I can do now is commit this and whatnot. So let's add ASCII Khalid. That's a good one. Commit and push. That's perfect. Right. Second change, and maybe not immediately a change, but the second thing I want to show you is that if you're connected to GitHub, you will actually get access to pull requests on GitHub. So you'll see that Khalid has opened quite a few. But what I can also do is open a new one and say, look, I want to share, put all of the changes that I've just done into a new branch. So Khalid ASCII into that one. Let's say add ASCII art and create a new pull request. So that's an easy one to do and very quick to do as well. Now, the nice thing there is something that you may notice here is that pull requests in the Git tool window are now also tabs. So that means my newly created pull request is there, but I can also open up multiple pull requests in different tabs. So you will see that the editor tabs are really specific to a specific pull request. But if you go in here, you can actually quickly switch between multiple pull requests if you want to work on something. Maybe look at the timeline, maybe look at the files that are in there, add comments and things like that. So nice little addition. I can imagine it's a bigger one on the back end, but it's quite useful if you have multiple pull requests open and you want to work on multiple at the same time, look at things that are going on, etc. So with that, I think, Khalid, I would expect you to merge the ASCII, Khalid, and we can move on to the next person. Come on, man,
Another
you should
ASCII.
merge it.
Another ASCII pull request or what?
Well, I think then who is the next person? It's definitely not me. I think it's either Rachel or Matthias, but the demo gods may have gotten Rachel.
Well, I thought you were adding more TXT files now. Where are the others?
No, I'm gonna stay with this one. I'm gonna stay with this one.
Next release party.
Maybe the next release party, we let people submit their own ASCII to a repo somewhere, and we can approve them.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Oh,
that would be
repository
dangerous.
full of
Let's not do
ASCII
that.
I can hear someone yelling GDPR. All right, then it would be Matt, I think. Matt, you have one thing to show.
Do I have one thing to show? Let me just hang on. Wait a minute, because my laptop is still...
I can also go first. That's also fine.
I possibly need like 10 more seconds. Fill for 10 more seconds. Somebody tell a joke. Khalid, you'll get the jokes.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Matthias.
The next thing is absolutely not scripted. I can see here on our agenda that's by the way, it's the only remark.
So do
I will make the remark.
Do you folks know why the Scarecrow got an award? Because he was outstanding in his field. Wow. There you go. I filled it, Matt. I tried. I
think we're going to need 10 minutes of silence just to recover from that one.
I killed.
There's one thing that I'm going to do based on that remark. I'm just going to close this pull request. Just no. I'm done with it. No ASCII art. Done.
Hurts.
All right. Well,
delete branch.
I can try this. My CPU is still at ridiculously high levels, but I can try it. We can see how this works. I like living dangerously. What's the worst that can happen?
Can I add you? Yeah.
1 second. And let's go for it. Let's go for it. Why not?
Okay. Sure.
Cool. Right. So okay, I'm gonna talk about the game development stuff, and there's a lot of game development stuff. So this could possibly really go badly wrong. So I'm going to start with Unity. We've got some stuff for Unity, Unreal, and Godot, and I'm going to start with Unity. One of the things we've done with this release is working on the DOTS support. DOTS is the data-oriented tech stack, which is a bit of a new architecture for Unity. Without diving into too many details, it changes how you write your game. And so instead of having like a game object with lots of attached components, which is not very good for CPU locality, to change a whole bunch of positions, you have to load an object, load its component, change the position, load an object, change it. No good for CPU caching. Instead, you get entities, components, and systems, and you get a nice big flat array of components, and just trundle through those and update those positions. But the problem with that is that there's already a nice way of authoring your code in Unity to work with objects, and you've got the inspector and the editor, and it all works nicely. And so how does that work with this new sort of entity component system world? And what we've got instead is this idea of an authoring component. So we're on my screen right now, aren't we? Yeah. So I've got an example here, this asteroid belt component, authoring component here. This lists all the component data that I would normally like to change as part of this. And then I have to create this Baker class, which will take my authoring component. I can edit that in the inspector and everything, but now I have to create a new component and assign those things. There's a whole lot of mapping between fields there. There's a whole lot of boilerplate. So that is a perfect example of something we can help with. So nice simple thing we can do here is Alt-Enter on your components, your authoring component. And then we've got an item down here, generate the Baker and component data script. We get a nice little dialog. Select the items that you want. Let's just have everything. I've got some options of where I want to create it. And then we can just hit OK, and there we go. We have a whole load of data created for us. We've got that mapping component just automatically created for us, and we've got the component data there as well. Let me just check something. Yeah, all good. And so if now you want to work in an opposite direction, so if you want to work with your component data, you can then build an authoring component from that. So let me just delete this. We got component data here. We recognize this component data thanks to this interface. And you can now use Alt-Enter, item at the top there, generate Baker and authoring script. You get a similar kind of dialog, although skinny dialog for some reason. You can select them all. And again, you got some options of where you want to create it. I'll just create it in the same file. And you get an authoring component and then the same Baker mapping there for you. So that's a great way of dealing with a whole load of boilerplate code that you don't want to have to do yourself. Other fun things we've got as part of this is some new templates. So if you do new on your file projects view there, or if you go to the right click and use add, we've got the usual Unity script items, but we've also got the dots item here as well. And I can create a new system. If I wanted to, new system, use the system base components, and we'll just create a new file for you. Nice and easy. These are all configurable. So if I go to the file template section of the settings, there's a Unity folder there. There's a whole load of items in there. We've got iSystem, or the one which I used, which was system base, and you can, add extra things in there, hello world. And then if you save those, you can save it to your global settings, or you can save it down here to your team shared settings, which is really useful. You can check that into source control, and everybody gets a copy of those changes, which is great. What was the next thing I wanted to show you? Okay, a few other fun things. Let me just bring this file over here for a second, because some of these are easier to show based on the images we got in the What's New text. This is our What's New page. You probably saw it when you first opened the new version of Rider. We've got better support for serialized reference here, some really cool stuff here. We can recognize when we are using serialized reference, which can deal with polymorphic items. So we can say it's an enemy here, but we actually recognize that you're using a derived instance here called boss, and we mark those as serializable. So it's a very smart bit of analysis there, figuring out what's going on. Other useful things are some UI toolkit specific live templates there. So we've been able to create your custom editor. The new the recommendation for custom editors is to use the new UI toolkit, user interface toolkit APIs. That's the word, APIs, to build your editors. And we've got live templates to match with that. If you're on an earlier version of Unity, we've still got the old templates there, which you can use as well. So the next fun thing, which is rather nice, is all about debugging. So let me just switch over to this one, Tower Defense, my good old trusty Tower Defense. When you can debug, you normally use the nice little Unity button in the toolbar, attached to Unity process, and we get a number of items listed here. Let me just, for fun, let's just start another item. There we go. We got a Mac version of the game running. This there. Two useful things we got here. First of all, meet my trusty Android laptop tablet. It's not very good. It's really old and rubbish, but it does work nicely for Android, and it does run nicely some Unity games. We can now actually discover your games running via USB on Android. So that's very nice. I can just double click that, and it'll start, it'll attach the debugger for me. and fire things up. I should have a breakpoint there, and if I hit the level select button any second. Nope. Where's my, I've probably killed my breakpoint. So if we just jump to the main menu, and if I go to show level select menu, and we've got a breakpoint there, and if I hit level select, there we go, we hit our breakpoint now. So we can debug Android apps over USB, which is really nifty. One of the other things we can do if we cancel that is that previously when debugging again, you would have to come back in here, attach the Unity process, find the item in the list and go for it. What we've got now though is we add these items. Once you debug, we automatically add them into the drop down of a run configuration. So we automatically create a temporary run configuration for your attached devices. So I can attach to my HP touchpad again and just hit the debug button and it connects, albeit slowly, because I've got a rubbish tablet. Or if we go to something like attach to Unity process, and we select the OS X player, and I attach to that, we can see we've already got this attached, created as a run configuration in the drop-down list as well, which is nice. So that's it for Unity. Oh no, the other useful thing with Unity actually, which is really cool, is documentation stuff, which is the other image. No, there it is there. And this is really nice. We've expanded the online documentation that you've got there to work with packages. And so it will work for things like dots, again, which is very useful. And also, one thing we have done as part of this release is localize everything. If you want to localize your rider in Chinese, Japanese, or Korean, you can just download a language pack. And that includes support for Unity as well. So the Unity features will all have nice localized versions and all run nicely. And we've also done that with the documentation for Unity API. So you can see here in the screenshot on trigger enter 2D, that's a Unity API. And because we've got localized language support for Unity documentation, we can show that in the tooltips as well, which is very nice. Now, because everything crashed, I don't actually have my Unreal demo working, unfortunately. So I'm going to have to, let me just try something. There's one thing I think I can do. Yep, there it is. Right, let's bring this one over. So we've got a couple of nice things as part of Unreal support. Not everything I can show you now due to my laptop falling apart, but one of the things we show now is part of our problems view here. We've now got a blueprints tab. So if there are any errors in your blueprints, we recognize those and show them to you, front and center as part of the IDE. You can see there's a little red dot on the icon there to show you that there's problems, because I've got problems going on in the file here, and that will highlight when you've got problems in blueprints. Another really nice thing we can do is when we create a new class here, so we can create a new Unreal class, and we actually get a really nice wizard to take us through things here. We can create, specify the class name, we can specify the type, we can just select whichever one you want there. The common ones are selected for you already, or you can just find everything there. And so I can just type and navigate, filter those down and work for it. Also get to specify where you want these to be, and then Rider will very quickly generate those for you, add them into the thing so you don't have to go back to Unreal and regenerate project files. We'll generate those for you and keep things up to date nice and quickly. Okay, so let's just move that back over there. The other nice things that we've got here, blueprint error parsing, macro substitution previews, which is a good one, tooltip over a macro, and we'll actually show you what that would expand to as part of the tooltip, which is very cool. Added another live template for U interface, which is useful. And finally, then some shader mappings as well. So you can map between your virtual directories and your physical directories. And if you have the RiderLink plugin installed, which you should have, you get prompted as that when you do install, then we can also sort of load that information directly from the Unreal Engine, which is pretty nifty. So now let me just check that everything's still happy. Right, we're all good. So very quickly then to move on, we've got support for Godot as well. We've been working on a plugin. So I've got a little Godot project here. If you go to plugins, you can go to the Marketplace tab and just search for Godot, and we've got our Godot Support plugin here. Install that. It's not bundled. You need to download it yourself, install that through the UI, and then you get some Godot support, which is pretty nice. We do a couple of useful things. Firstly, we give you the player and the editor run configurations. We recognize that it's a Godot sample project, and we'll create those immediately, so I can just hit play and it will build my project and start running it. And I can have my little app running very quickly, and I can dodge the creeps. There they are, and then die. Or I can just hit the debug button and we can immediately start debugging. And if I just do that, then I've got a breakpoint set up so that when I press right, then it'll a conditional breakpoint set up so that when I click right, it'll hit the breakpoint like that. And we can do all the usual kind of things you'd expect of hovering over items and changing things. But we also get some nice features as part of the debugger things. So we get to see the current scene, and we can then sort of view the children that are associated there. So we can kind of look at the hierarchy of objects that are being used as part of your scene. And now I have to stop the debugger because it's playing all that music into my headphones. So that's some nice things with Godot. We've got a couple of other things. Obviously, we work with the .NET 6 support for it, so it's not just mono. We can run unit tests as well. So if this works, we can recognize normal unit tests, run them. It'll load a specific scene, run the project with that scene, and hopefully run those tests there. And there we go. We've got a green test, which is really useful. And then finally, as well, we've got completion in res strings there as well. So I can select useful stuff. It's better if you do it in the actual project. Where have my res items? I've lost my res. But we'll find you then things, the assets in your project directory, and so you can easily load your scenes and other assets like that. And I think that brings me to the end of the things that I wanted to show you for for game development. So I'm going to hand you over to whoever's next. That we've moved things around a bit. Who's next, Matthias?
Still you. You still have to tell me. Yeah. You still have to tell me. You still have to tell me if it's a good idea to have an option to show white spaces if I select code.
Oh, yes, absolutely. That's a lovely one. I like that one a lot. And I'm glad you covered it for me. If you've got white space, we can enable white space like this. And you can see that there's very faintly, can you see those very faint dots there? We can see all those white space, but you either have it on or you have it off. And it's like, well, you know, is there a middle ground? And yes, there is a middle ground as well. And if we actually just pop over to the editor, wherever that one is, it's under appearance, isn't it? We've got an option here to show white space. One thing we can do is we can turn all these off and just leave selection on. And that one's very nice because right now you can zoom in, look, see, there's no white space, and you can highlight things and wait, did I cancel that? Nope.
Don't see it.
And it's not working. Jeez.
I think
this is a great.
Is it possible that you still have to select one of the others?
Wait.
The checkboxes.
You might be entirely right there. Yeah.
No, I can see.
And there it is. You can just about see those dots there. It's hard to see while zoomed in there, and so you can get to you can have it so it only shows during while you've got selection, or you can have it shown all the time as well. So it's a useful way of doing things. And of course, if you want to change the contrast there, because with the selection, then you can just go into the color settings and change the value for white space.
Thanks. I will keep it disabled.
Any other things you want to surprise me with?
No, that's it.
Is that it?
Actually, you surprised me because actually I was just asking for this one thing, and then you were full-blown game development mad.
You could have told me that. You know, that's what happens when your laptop crashes and you're panicking to try get everything back and running. I even had my laptop.
You were in Rider flow, so I couldn't interrupt. Yeah. I'm sorry, but it's all good. It's all good.
Oh well, Gone off piste
Okay.
already. This is great.
No worries, all good. But back to me, yeah. Now that I said I don't need this option, I still have some other things to show. And what is this? So first, let's start with conversion hints. I think users of Verify by the awesome Simon Kropp probably have seen this if you still have conversion hints enabled. And just look at this for a moment. Because Verify returns in settings task, and this one is converted to the normal task instance, we can see this little conversion item here, which is shown as a hint. Same goes for this apply method, which accepts a vector of 2D, but we are creating a vector of 3D, which can be implicitly converted. Now, the question is, and I actually also had this problem, and my Apple Watch is listening. I hope it learns some things. Previously, you could only decide if you want to have those hints or if you don't want them for any conversion. And now, if I go to configure here, I'll enter configure, we have a list of type conversions that should not be shown. So, and to make things a little bit more easy, you can actually also add those types from right here. So I can go here and say, I want to hide for task settings task converting to task. And once I do this, this little symbol here goes away, but I still have it for all the others that are not disabled, of course. Next one is spell check. No, parameter name hints. That's also nice. This is so funny because once I thought, okay, we have those parameter hints and we could show them for inline data. And I talked to one of our devs and he said, well, we have them. And I said, I don't see them. Oh yeah, they're for N unit, not for X unit yet. So right here, come on, push to hint. Now I'm holding my control key. And now you can see this inline data actually accepts a params of, let's show this for a moment, a params of object. But once I hit my control key to show parameter hints, these names are inferred or taken from the method signature of the test. So now I can see, okay, this is a number, this is Boolean, etc. And particularly for long lists of inline data, just suppose you have the full screen like this, then you don't need to go to the method. Come on. But you can see right from here which value is passed for what parameter. So very nice. This is now also available for X unit. I think in our last dev ecosystem, we found that X unit now has taken over the lead after N unit, if I'm not mistaken. Rachel, correct me if I'm wrong, please. Okay, the next one is spell checking. Reformat Martin has already shown. So spell checker is integrated in Rider, of course, and previously you could see things like this, for instance. If I, here not, but if I change the JWT token, I hope you can see it. Can you please tell me if you see this little squiggly here? It shows a typo basically. But now our spell checking engine recognizes some, common identifiers, hashes, JSON Web Tokens, and now you don't see those errors anymore, except for, it's an error in a normal string or something like here. Okay, next is weird spell checking. Martin had rename refactoring. Yeah, not to forget this. This is interesting because just recently I found this to be an annoying issue. So previously, if you wanted to rename lookups, then you could do it from here, of course, and say rename lookups to lookups 2. And the file name is also automatically updated, of course. What didn't work, and apparently I was a person who preferred that workflow, I was always going to the file and renaming it from here. and this didn't propagate. So if I changed name to lookups 2, then the class would still be named lookups right after renaming the file. But now we have this little option here. So to rename, type lookups to match the new file name. I think someone is still not muted. Matt, maybe? Can you mute maybe? Lookups 2, okay. So now this propagates to the type as well. Okay, so that was the rename refactoring. Thanks, Matt. And the last one for my episode now is Markdown Typing Assist. So let's close this for a moment. So Typing Assist, a lot of these things were already there, but behind one single option, I think. And let me just open the settings page. So not as I wanted, but there's a settings page now for Markdown. Let's bring this up here in a normal way. It's under, let's try here. Markdown Typing Assistance. This is interesting because if you're also using IntelliJ, then it won't be under Typing Assist, but something called Smart Keys. Well, I think we prefer Typing Assist, so it's listed under here. And there you have several options that you can enable, disable, like reformatting table when typing. This was also new to me, to insert HTML line break if you hit enter in a table, or to add a new row and stuff like this. And just to show you briefly, so I can navigate, for instance, through a table using tab. I can shift enter to add a new row, and I can also just enter to insert a line break. You know, we cannot do normal line breaks in tables, so Rider will take care of that. And of course, I can also reformat. What was the reformat? Shit. Sorry. I forgot the reformat shortcut. Maybe this selected file. No. There was one, but I forgot which one. Reformat code. I hear this. Yeah. Okay, that was not the smartest. All right, but we also have, wait, my mouse. We also have stuff like, oh, and it did some things that I didn't intend to do just yet. There's also a new action called fill paragraphs, which automatically breaks some of your longer paragraphs into several lines. So just to make, you know, committing and changes a bit easier, so that you don't have a long line of changes, although I think you can still see it with the help of our VCS integration. And there's also the structural wrapping for this fragment. So this will, let's go back for a moment. And now it's gone. Why it's gone now? And it's gone. So usually there's here, and you saw it before. No, there's a little under a squiggly to say apply structural wrapping. Well, yeah, anyway, usually this should put each sentence into a separate line. I don't know why it didn't work this time when I went back. But anyway, this would be the result. Maybe I was messing too much. Okay, looking at the agenda, I think Khalid is next with colors and brushes. Colors and brushes. Khalid, ready?
Yeah, let's go. Let's share my screen first, though. I think that's
okay.
the important
Shared?
part. Yeah. All right. Okay. Hey, everybody. Martin kind of demoed Avalonia a little bit earlier with .trace, and we're putting a lot of effort into Avalonia in terms of a developer experience. So if you're using Avalonia or maybe any other XAML, for Avalonia specifically, we brought brush previews to XAML. So here you can see that I have a style in my Avalonia view, and you can see the colors here, red and blue for particular brushes. You can also, in the XAML view, go ahead and pick a color from the palette. So here you can go, woo. Martin, what's your favorite color? Quick.
Let's go with purple.
Purple. I love purple. All right. So if you do that, it'll actually pick the hash and put it in, and you'll still get that. So I don't like purple, Martin. Why'd you pick? No, I'm just joking. Anyways, there's that in the XAML, but we know a lot of people prefer C# and doing things in C#. So if you're the kind of person that uses MVVM for a lot of your Avalonia development, or maybe just doesn't use XAML at all, you still get those brush previews in C# code. So you can come in here. You notice Khalid pink is not really pink, so we can kind of erase that. Let's go. And if my fingers work, you can see that we get color previews here as well. So you can kind of see the colors that you can choose from. So that's Avalonia improvements. We're still putting a lot of investment here, but the team is heavily invested, and we're definitely using it here at JetBrains. So we're dog fooding a lot of this stuff here and sharing it with the world. So if you're doing Avalonia or interested in getting Avalonia, try out Rider, and I think you'll enjoy the experience. So the other thing I wanted to show, and someone's already asked about this in the chat, we have a new database schema compare. I've heard reports that Martin is trying to start a zoo, and surprisingly, I'm also starting a zoo. But there's something weird about Martin's zoo. So I've gotten access to his database. We're both using Entity Framework Core against SQLite. So here I have two databases. If you come into the database tool window, you'll see this little 2-arrow compare structure feature now. So if I click that, I can actually choose which other database I want to compare it with. So I'll compare Martin's with my zoo, and you'll get this really nice database schema compare. You'll notice the things that are different, and you'll also notice things that are potentially identical if you want to show that here. But if you look, my zoo has cats and giraffes, but something is weird about Martin's lions. I think he's
Weird.
trying to...
I mean, you are putting cats in a zoo, man. Come on.
Hey, cats are great. What do you have against cats, Martin? Come on. But Martin is trying to pass his cats off as lions, and I can see that when comparing the two schemas. So this is kind of a nice feature. This comes from our database or data grip team, and it makes its way into Rider. The other thing you can see here is the script. So if you want to do any kind of migrations between staging and production, or development staging, you can get that difference in schema. And you can give it to your DBA or run it during CI/CD to kind of keep things in sync as well. So that's a really, really nice feature. So database compare, try it out. Super cool. And go to my zoo. Don't go to Martin's zoo. I don't know. Not a good zoo. I'm just going to say it. The next thing I want to show you, since Docker is kind of taking over the development world in terms of developer experience, being able to replicate production and locally on your development environment. We know a lot more people are starting to adopt Docker just to kind of keep the differences between development and production to a minimum. That way, when you run into bugs, you can recreate them. That said, sometimes building a Docker container, especially for .NET developers, can be, slow. What we've done is adopt Docker fast mode. And the way the Docker fast mode works is it'll build your application locally and then mount those DLLs as a volume. And that actually increases your development time dramatically. So here, I have a minimal API ASP.NET Core application.
Can I just interrupt there? You just said it increases your development time. I think we just want to make it clear.
Billable hours, man. Billable hours.
You just gotta, it increases your velocity, I should say. That's what I meant.
There we are.
So thank you. Jeez, these British people, so pedantic, Matt. So pedantic. Anyways, thank you though. I appreciate it. But here I have a minimal API application. It's the world's greatest application. It just has an endpoint and says, hello, Martin. So let me go here. select my run configuration, which is using the Docker file in this project. And then when I run it, what will happen is .NET will build my ASP.NET Core application, and then we'll go ahead and build that Docker container. So it's pretty quick. Here it goes. It's building, and it's done. So now my application is running. Let me go find. I have an endpoint. If you're not using the HTTP client in Rider, I mean, you should. It's pretty awesome. So here I have my Docker app running. I'm going to go ahead and run. And you can see it says, hello, Martin. Well, things have changed. Martin and I don't get along anymore because his zoo is trying to compete with my zoo. So I'm going to say, hello, Rachel. So sorry, I'm kidding, Martin. You're great.
I'm going to weep in a corner now.
So I went ahead and changed the code, and I'm rerunning my Docker container to say, hello, Rachel. So I've already built it. It's already been deployed to my local Docker desktop. And if I run it, you can see now it says, hello, Rachel. So that's pretty cool. A lot of folks will get an improved velocity when working with Docker. That one's for you, Matt. And it should make things a lot easier. You can also debug things and the things you normally be used to with Docker. So the next thing I want to show, which is really neat, I think a lot of people are going to like this. If you're using Docker, sometimes those containers can be isolated, but what most folks want to do is create a Docker compose file so that they can orchestrate all these containers and build a logical application from separate projects. So in this project, I have multiple web applications. So the first one is the one you just saw. And what I want to do is go into the menu and say add. And we have this new menu item called Docker Compose File. So if I do that, I have to choose the target operating system. And then I click OK. And here we have a new file that's a solution item added to your solution, which includes that. I can also go to another web application and click Docker Compose File, click OK. And when I open that Docker Compose file, you can see Rider went ahead and created each of those entries in my Docker Compose file. So it helps you kind of organize your logical application in a Docker Compose file really easily through those context menus. And you don't have to futz with this kind of syntax. So very, very cool feature. So give that a try. I think folks will like this one. I know I've spent my fair share in Docker's documentation trying to find the right way to do things. And Rider doing this for us is it's awesome. So, okay. Let's get into some Blazor stuff, because I think Blazor is one of those things that from our user base, we're getting a lot of feedback and there's been a lot of improvements, and we're going to continue doing those improvements thanks to our amazing team. But one of the things that we've heard a lot from people is the inability to debug startup code for Blazor WASM applications. That's been fixed in the latest release. So if you have any particular startup code that runs before your WASM application starts up, you can now set a breakpoint and debug. I actually have the explanation here. Rider waits for the page target to initialize, connects the debugger, and only then does it start the actual app loading. So that's how the new debugger and debugging startup code works in the latest version of Rider. So let me find that run configuration. I have it right here. I've set a breakpoint in the startup code where we get the base address for our Blazor application. And if I go ahead and start debugging, we'll get our Chrome window that pops up typically here. And I think I'm going to hit that breakpoint soon. All right, come on, let's do it. Oh, didn't hit it. let's see here. Oh, it makes sense to put the breakpoint. So let's try that again. I'm fighting the demo gods today. Oh, there we go. All right, so we've hit the breakpoint now before our application has even started. So you can see here, we're still stuck on the loader that's been recently added to Blazor. Let me go ahead and move this over here, move this over here. And you can see we can now, if I step through, we can see what the value of base address is. So this is startup code in Blazor. So if you're doing any kind of initialization, you need to access configuration options that are typically hard to kind of get once the application is started. You can always put a breakpoint here, and that's a pretty cool feature. So another thing that Blazor development has added, sometimes your windows can kind of get out of control. You have multiple tabs with your Blazor application running. You kind of lose track of which one is your main one, which one are like past debugging sessions. This time around, when you hit the stop, we actually just go ahead and we close those tabs for you. So if you started a debugging session, gotten the information you needed, and you stop it, we just kill that tab for you. So no more having to manage all those tabs. I think that's pretty neat. So, all right. Let's see what else we have here. So that, I think that's it for now. I'll come back to F# unless, Matthias, do you want me to do the F# now or wait till after?
Sure, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay.
Also works.
Okay. So we've actually also added some new F# improvements. Postfix templates have gotten a big improvement here. So if you're doing F# development, we have postfix templates for match, for, and with. This kind of helps you reduce the amount of boilerplate code that you have to write. Rider will just generate that stuff for you. So here I have my types of point and a new type of point pair. So I'll just type, and here I can do the postfix template. And now it just generates the curly braces around here. So that's pretty cool. Additionally, if you have a nested type, you can also still use the postfix, and we'll give you an option of which one you want to actually add to. So pretty cool. All right. Additionally, for something like an array, you can use the postfix for. Oops, a little too fast. Actually, type it right. And we'll generate a for loop for you as well. So that's pretty cool. All right. The other thing we've done for with clauses is we'll actually generate all the potential like options that come from that in your match expressions. So if you come down here, oops, let me see if I do this right. You'll get a menu suggestion of match values. And if you select that, in this case, is even returns Boolean. So we generate the true and false branches for you. So you can kind of fill those in really quickly. The last thing that we've added to F# is language injections as it relates to regex. So if you create a new regex instance and pass it a string, you'll actually get syntax highlighting now. So that's pretty cool. If you're using this structure, right now there's a bug, but it'll be fixed in the next release. If you end up putting a comment of language equals regex, you'll also get that language injection as well. So as a security expert told me, you should always put timeouts on your regexes just so you don't have a DDoS attack. And yeah, that's really it for F#. Hopefully you check out those other features. I did want to add one more thing. If you want to go back and look at what we've released, you can always do Shift and say what's new right inside of Rider. You can kind of see the release notes. So that's pretty cool. Other than that, I'll pass it back to you, Manchus.
All right. Next one, actually, also thanks, because I didn't realize I have this topic, string visualizers. Let me share my screen as well. So we added string visualizers in debugging. So this is just a test, and I will, let's just debug this, and you see there's a bunch of errors. Force restore. Bunch of errors. Once we fix those, and we should stop at the breakpoint. All right. And now, so for all these different types of documents, we can also see them down here in the locals view. And for HTML, for instance, you can just click view, and then you will see basically a rendered HTML. That string rendered as HTML, but you can also see the raw response. The same goes for XML, of course, which is a bit better, you know, formatted, although this still works if you ask me. Oh, low memory. What's really interesting is this JWT view, because that one is how to say, deserialized, so that you can see what is actually contained in that token. So that's pretty nice, and of course also URL encoded stuff. I don't know, there are probably maybe there are a couple more even where it makes sense. But yeah, this is the first version for those, and yeah, go check it out. Then what else do we have? Let me go back to notes here. String version, runtime configurations. Yeah, this is probably something, you know, if you need it, you need it. Then it's good to know that we added it. For any run configuration that you have, you can now, or .NET project, of course, you can now change the runtime to a more specific, or to a specific one, something that you want. Usually we do this automatically, and I think it will just use, you know, through global JSON or something. But now you can choose your own custom runtime or mono, whatever, on Windows. I don't know, probably also have these options. So yeah, you can just customize the runtime the project is run with. And reattach to process. This is interesting. Me as a plugin developer, I frequently need this, but let me think, where did I add this example? I think I had a new console application. Yeah, this one, exactly. And my way of debugging is always, you know, not starting with the debugger attached, but then doing something like this and wait here until the debugger is attached, something like this. Because it doesn't work with all applications to start debugging right away. But anyway, with this one, if we previously debugged our application, like I do this right here, now I can start it, and it could potentially, you know, depending on your application, do some pretty heavy lifting, resource intensive, whatever code that is running. And only after, once you think, okay, now the initial boot, the initial load should be covered, then you can go here and say you want to reattach to process. We also added a shortcut right away. So this one is Options, key, Shift, and P. And once I do this, just hitting the shortcut, then you can see I also just jump to the next breakpoint that I have hit here, because this spin weight just you know, succeeds, and then it continues. So yeah, this reattach to process is pretty nice, particularly if you have very heavy applications that profit if you just run them from the start instead of debugging and attaching the debugger later. Okay, let me see what else. I think now it's Rachel time with 2 things. Rachel, ready? Rachel muted.
I suppose, maybe what am I supposed to show here? The localization? Because I think that's what I had for the end, right?
Import code completion Angular automatic conversion of strings to templates.
Yeah, so I was just going to show the what's new page on that. So that's a feature from WebStorm.
Then you know what? Then let me continue, and then we switch over to you for that, maybe. Okay. I just also have a bunch of little things that are worth knowing. First one is, let me go back to the notes because I don't know if I wanted to show this here. We have a new structure tool window, which honestly I don't even remember what it looked before, but it also includes relevant members from base types and stuff like this. So for instance, equals, you can see this has a different color because it's not defined in that file. If you have actual base types, further base types than object, let's say, those will also be shown, of course. And what's interesting, and I think there was one feature we didn't merge, which was VCS related. I think maybe Khalid can chime in once I'm done with it, with that here. Because another really nice thing is that also go to members. Let me see, go to members. No, how's it called? Members, file members. File members is the one that I was looking for. I only remembered the shortcut. So file members. This view now looks actually the same, I think, as the structure tool view, tool window. Sorry. And you also have this clicking the shortcut twice or hitting the shortcut twice will toggle. Yeah, I can point with my finger on the screen. Smart. You can toggle this little thing here, checkbox, to include members from related files or not, which is also nice. And of course, you can also type to filter. Type to filter is also a good keyword. So let's go back to notes here. So unit test 3 filters. Let's run tests for a moment here. And I have a bunch of tests, just 3 actually, or no, 6 actually. And we can search now. We have this little box here, which a text box to filter the unit test that you have in the session. And what's really nice is that you can also search for I hate this word, parameterized tests. Was that good? Okay, thanks. So you can also search for test parameters here, which is really nice, I think. So it's actually more superior than just going here and go to symbol or something. Really nice. Okay, and let me go back to my notes. Yeah, last one is Kodana Cloud. This is an honor to show this in a brief moment. Just let me move my window over here. So this is a new product we introduced recently, Kodana, which is used to track your code quality. And I also, so you can check this out later, this page, but I've set up a project already in Kodana Cloud. This is currently still in, actually, I don't know if it's still in beta or something, but it's pretty new. What you can see here is that I already have a project for my release party solution. And in my actual problems currently, I don't have any because most of them are already moved to baseline. Because once you start adding Kodana to your project, you have a bunch of problems probably, and probably you also want to focus on new problems first and not, with my other project, I think I have 2,000 problems. Yeah, I'd rather not go and fix all of those at once, but instead I moved them to baseline. So the idea here is that as you go, you just don't introduce new problems, and any problem that is in the baseline will just be hidden for you for now, and only actual new problems will show. What's interesting, of course, you can switch branches here. In my other branch, you can see I introduced 6 new problems, which I can also then inspect here further below. This one just says, okay, HTML is not used. Then you could open this inside Rider right from here, but you can also go ahead and say, I want to exclude this particular inspection. And what's really interesting about this is once you do this, of course, the view will update a couple of times then, whatever inspections you exclude. And once you did, once you finish with your configuration, you can go over to the configuration tab, scroll down further down below, and you can see there's an updated Kodana YAML file. So this one you would just copy and replace the one that you have in your repository. And then you can see now we just remove those 2 inspections, and with a new run, once I commit it, they will be excluded. Actually, I should show you briefly what files I added, but otherwise the documentation is also really simple about this, so you will get started really quickly. So this is the Kodana configuration file, Kodana YAML, should be in the root of your repository, and it just says which linters you want to use. We use the .NET linter, which under the hood uses inspect code, if you ever heard about this. So all powered still by ReSharper. And we also have a fail threshold that is particularly, if you don't want to increase to add new problems to your solution, and a reference to the solution. And to generate the baseline file, you just have to execute Kodana once on either the CI and you download the serif file, or you generate it locally. That also works. And we also have, of course, documentation for all the different CI systems, like in this case, for GitHub Actions, which is pretty nice. So basically just checking out the repository and executing Kodana scan. And what you can see then is in my PR that I have here, then you also have those checks here which will fail. And yes, I think currently there's no nice way to navigate to the web page, at least as far as I could see. But what I want to show you is my very first blog post that I wrote for our blog, and those were times 2016. And back then, we used inspect code, the command line tool, to generate this nice view. Nice in quotes, because it wasn't really nice, but it was something, to show you all the inspections that have been violated. Now with Kodana in Team City, this looks absolutely awesome. So you can see this is also built with Kodana and success. I have a Kodana tab now, and I have the very same view as I have in the Kodana, Kodana Cloud viewer, like here. Very same view with the baseline problems, configuration, etc. I could still do the same stuff as I've shown you previously, and this happens automatically. So once you add a new build step, which uses the Kodana runner, and then you just have to fill the token and the baseline file, that's all. And of course, also for another branch that I have here, we can also see that actual problems 9 increased from the previous run. And you can even dive with this little sunburst, which I still haven't figured out how to make proper use of, to be honest, at least me. But yeah, you can just filter through this little sunburst here, but also by files, etc. One thing to note, which is really cool about this, but it wasn't working properly on my machine just yet. I'm sure, at least that's how I feel. I don't have, let me see, apply project, yes. I don't have solution-wide analysis enabled because once I'm not connected to power, then it can be, you know, depending on the size of the solution, can be a power consumer, let's say. With Codana, you can actually let this solution-wide analysis run on your CI, and Codana will just fetch the results from Codana Cloud, and then you have the same information basically, because like credentials is never used. This is one of the global inspections, because only when we execute global inspection, then we can know if something is used or not. And usually that's the part that didn't work, that only worked one time, let's say, when I tested this. You should also only see the issues for your particular branch. So currently, unfortunately, I see the whole baseline. But of course, it's nice if you only see the diff between the baseline and what you've added in your branch. But yeah, I couldn't make it work. And maybe it's me, maybe it's a bug. Anything is possible. But yeah, with that, I think that's a really nice thing to no longer have to enable solution-wide analysis, but still having that knowledge in your project. Okay, I think that's it about Codana. Now we can switch over to Rachel for the last bits. Rachel, ready?
Yep.
Where's your screen? Here. Shared?
Yep, looks good. So the last two little bits here is a lot of view support that comes right out of WebStorm. So if I take a look here, WebStorm shows new support of TypeScript in view templates, component completion, and a whole bunch of other cool stuff. So for example, if I have a view project here, you'll notice Rider picks up on a few things, but not entirely. So here for the templates, particularly if I come in here and do a setup language equal TypeScript and let it know, it's going to actually pick that up. And then right away, you notice some of those changes. It noticed, oh, hey, look, you had an unresolved variable, right? So I could come in here and then fix this. It's also noticed a few other things within the tags in the templates as well. So you get a little bit of extra TypeScript recognition in there to fix up some potential problems. The last little bit, which I'm not going to do in the IDE, but you could get to it through the plugins, is the language packs. We have localized into Chinese, Korean, and Japanese. So you could go into plugins and look for any of these, like the word Korean, Chinese, Japanese, and you could come in here and just click install. Now, if you do this, the minute you do, it reboots and then turns it into Korean, and I don't speak Korean, and then I'll have to uninstall Rider, and it'll be a small disaster. So I'm just not going to do it here. But so you know, you just go to the plugin, pick out your language pack, and you're good. So you have these new localization options in Rider for people who speak these languages. Just go to it. You can also install from disk, but it's easy enough. Just go to the plugins, look it up, and off you go. So those were the last two little bits that we had for this.
Cool, thank you. All right, now fading out a little. Let me share my screen again. Blank screen, that's it. Nothing more to say. No, a couple. So for those, sometimes, you know, many people haven't heard about this, so I will keep saying it. Rider particular is powered by ReSharper in the background, so all the features that we add to ReSharper, Rider will get automatically. So make sure to always check out the what's new of ReSharper as well. For Rider, we covered most of the things, I think, in the stream. But then there's also IntelliJ, which is also part of Rider, at least some things. So always have a look at this as well. And have a look as well as on DataGrip. Khalid covered briefly the database schema comparer. And have a look at WebStorm, what Rachel just showed, I think, with the latest news, which is funny. Just recently, I watched a video about Astro from my front-end developer friends. Yes, I have front-end developer friends. Okay, and we have a blog. Go check it out with a lot of webinars, continuous blog posts, and stuff like this. All right, gang, are you happy with the stream? No Martin robot voice.
Absolutely. No robot voice. We did have our fair share of technical issues, but no robot voice this time. I'm happy.
Martin, can you say hello in robot voice?
Not anymore.
No robot voice.
Okay, then thanks everyone. Thanks everyone for thanks to my gang. Thanks to everyone watching, of course. It's always nice to connect with you and get all your questions and joke around in the chat. Really cool. If you need more information, those are the places to check out. Our blog, our website, our several Twitter handles, maybe next time also with Mastodon handles. Our YouTube channel. Would be great if you subscribe and like the video. I'm really needy.
Smash that like button.
Okay, and with that, everyone say bye and see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
And see you next time.